As I tell you about this hidden history, I'm showing some footage of the Colac Colac Caravan Park, a beautiful place to stay all through the year, any season, with your family. This article appeared in the Albury Banner and Wodonga Express on the 12th of May 1882, and it's titled Wholesale Opium Smuggling. On Thursday the 4th, Mr. Ferguson, collector of the customs at Wodonga, received information to the effect that opium smuggling on a very extensive scale was being carried out over the river at some point in the neighbourhood of Tintulja. On receipt of this information, Mr. Ferguson took the precaution to test its correctness by telegraphing in various directions to verify certain details of the statement. Finding everything up to par, he started on Friday for the Upper Murray, calling at Cotton Tree to obtain assistance from Constable Wallace, with whom he pushed on to Jingellic, arriving at daybreak on Saturday. He could not find that anyone had crossed the river here, and so determined to go on further, leaving the constable to keep watch at Jingellic. After travelling half a dozen miles, Mr. Ferguson ascertained that a man on horseback, leading a pack horse, had been seen to cross early on Friday morning. He then returned for Constable Wallace, and with some difficulty in finding the exact spot where the man had crossed, he ultimately came on the tracks and followed them to Tintulja, where he lost them. He heard, however, that a man had been riding in the direction of Cudgewar, and having a shrewd suspicion that the smuggler would make for the Omeo track, he determined to follow. Owing to the absence on duty of the local constable, Mr. Ferguson dispatched a special messenger to the police at Corryong, stating the facts of the case and the course he believed the smuggler to have taken. In company with Constable Wallace, he then pushed on further towards Colac Colac, and after riding about 20 miles, found that they were 10 miles out of the track. At this junction, they fortunately fell in with a young lady, Miss Rouse, who had seen a Chinaman pass with a pack horse, and who kindly piloted them in a rough ride of some 10 miles onto the track, which they struck at a point that had been passed 10 minutes previously by the police from Corryong. At this time it was dark and impossible to proceed any further until the moon rose. The party therefore halted, and when it was light enough to see the track, they resumed their journey, guided by the overseer of Narrewell Station, who showed them the way to the Gibbo. The trail of the smuggler being struck, the chase was kept up with vigour, and about midnight Mr. Ferguson and his company came up to the place where the Chinaman had been camped with his 2 horses grazing near at hand. The bold smuggler had however already been arrested. Acting on the hint thrown out by Mr. Ferguson with regard to the probability of a Chinaman taking the Omeo track, the Corryong police had pushed along the trail, and owing to a mistake made by Mr. Ferguson in the early part of the day, they were first to be in at the death. They found the Chinaman, a selector named R.G., living at Omeo, comfortably asleep at the foot of Mount Gibbo, with no less than 120 tins of contraband opium stowed away in his pack horse. He made no attempt to deny the smuggling of the opium, which he had brought somewhere in the centre of the Riverina, and he expressed his willingness that the case should be dealt with by the Commissioner of Customs. He was, of course, arrested and brought to the Wodonga. In connection with this case, the energy and good judgment displayed by the Collector of Customs are especially worthy of notice. The difficulty and labour connected with his little jaunt of 150 miles day and night through some rough country can only be understood by those who have undertaken a similar journey.